Super Wild Card Weekend is in the books, and we are on to the divisional round here of the NFL playoffs. I got Ryan Linkletter here to break down everything for Saturday's action. Denver, Buffalo, 49ers, Seahawks. We're going to talk about it all and help you spin to win those lineups on Fantasy Spin coming up next. Like I mentioned, that is Ryan Linkletter. You can find him over on X at @BlitzLink_ and with Blitz Sports Media. I believe that is Blitz SM _ as well. Right, Ryan?
Yep, 100%.
Got it.
Appreciate you having me on today.
Absolutely. I'm one for one.
It's been a little bit.
Absolutely. I'm 1 for 1. Hopefully we can keep it up and nail these picks. So I'm going to kick it right over to your first. Like I said, Denver, Buffalo on the AFC side, Seattle, San Fran on the NFC side. I was looking over at blitzsportsmedia.com with some NFL picks. Talk to me why you like the Bills and why you like the Seahawks on Saturday.
Yeah, I think looking at the first matchup of the two AFC teams, Buffalo versus Denver. Denver's been living on the edge the entire season. I don't think I've seen a team in my lifetime play with fire like the Denver Broncos have this season. The amount of comeback wins this team has had, the amount of close games they've had, and it seems like this team plays up to their competition. I expect them to have a better showing than they did to close the season versus the Chargers and the Chiefs backups, where they were in one-score games for a majority of those games, struggling to pull away from a lot of backups in those games. And that's kind of what we've gotten from Denver. They've relied a ton on that great defense, and their defense has shown a little bit more cracks in the second half of the year. What version of Bo Nix will we get? Is he going to be inconsistent? Is he going to miss some throws early on to start the game? And against Josh Allen, who is clearly the best quarterback left in the postseason right now, your room for error against him is very thin. And typically, when I'm looking at these postseason matchups, I like picking the better quarterback in a game that I think is close. Obviously, the home field advantage for Mile High and the Denver Broncos coming off a bye week is significant, but the Bills have been there. They've had this playoff experience, and without the Chiefs in their way right now, I just think Buffalo might just have a destiny to make the Super Bowl this year. I know we talked about it before the show. I kind of like the Texans a little bit more to make that run because of their defense, but Buffalo has as good of a shot as anybody because of the quarterback they have. And don't forget about James Cook in that backfield as well. And then as far as the 49ers and Seahawks go, we saw these two teams match up not too long ago, and the 49ers offense was completely stifled in that last game these two teams matched up. Typically, right, the 49ers this year have had to rely on that offense because of the amount of injuries they've had on that defensive side of the ball. I don't think Seattle coming off a bye week is going to be rusty. Clint Kubiak is a good offensive coach. Mike McDonald has had a lot of experience, especially with Baltimore in the playoffs coming off a bye, having to make a run that way, and they did fine. They made the AFC Championship game. I think Seattle will be well prepared for their division opponent, but can Seattle out-coach Kyle Shanahan and Robert Saleh? Because last week we saw the Philadelphia Eagles get out-coached by those two. I understand the Seahawks have a bit better of a coaching staff than the Eagles as a whole, so I think they'll be prepared for that. But this is going to be a great matchup. I think the spread's a little high, but I think Seattle is going to find a way to take it home.
Those are the two teams I like as well. So I guess we are 2 for 2. I got the X accounts right. We agree on the game. So let's see here.
Yes,
before I do this first spin, though, kind of for those entering in this contest, we're playing for tokens in the winner take all for Saturday, both games. We got 4 locks. We got 5 spins. We do need there's a dedicated quarterback spot, a running back spot, a receiver spot, and then we got 3 flex spots, which remember, kickers can come up in. So if you really are wanting Jason Myers, right there's your chance to get him in the flex spot. So we'll do this first spin, but let me ask you point blank. Amongst the Josh Allens, the Jackson Smith and Jigbas, Christian McCaffrey on the slate, if you were to say to win a lineup on Fantasy Spin or to win a contest on Fantasy Spin this weekend, the player you need in your lineup is blank. Who is that guy?
I'm going to actually go 2. I'm going to go 1 from each matchup. In the Seattle versus San Francisco game, I look at the Seahawks running backs and Kenneth Walker in particular that I think has a great matchup that he can exploit. We've seen his efficiency tick up over the last 2 weeks. The volume has been very good over the last 2 weeks as well. I know Charbonnet is always going to have a 40 to 50% snap share in this offense, and it's going to be frustrating, but I think Kenneth Walker entering this week is a bit of a value based on how much the 49ers run defense has struggled. Saquon had over 100 rushing yards last week, and this team They've been very vulnerable on the ground this year. I expect Walker to have a nice game. And then the other matchup, the sneaky guy I look at, everybody's going to be like, oh, RJ Harvey. That's too obvious for me. I'm going to look at the other side. I'm going to look at Buffalo's tight ends, Dawson Knox, Dalton Kincaid, who I think have a good matchup against a Denver defense that it was bottom 5 against tight ends and yards after the catch allowed. And Buffalo features those guys. I think that's the matchup that, in terms of a value perspective, I look at and say, hey, maybe I go target these guys and get them in my lineup, and that might work out pretty well.
Sometimes it's good to have the chalk. You may have the top projected lineup, but projections, smajections, it doesn't matter. They got to go out and play the game. I agree with Kenneth Walker. So we'll see if we get any of the Seattle backs that we get to talk about there. Bills heavy here on this.
Very Bills heavy.
Let's start right in the top. You got Josh Allen, you got Bo Nix, you got Sam Darnold, you got Brock Purdy. You're going to have to lock in one of those quarterbacks. We happen to pull Josh Allen here on the first spin. One could argue maybe the toughest defense on the Saturday slate. But at the end of the day, it is Josh Allen. Is he going to be our quarterback in this lineup?
You don't second guess yourself right here, regardless of who Josh Allen's going to play. Even like next week when he plays the Texans, you just have to. I know a lot of you guys are in fantasy football playoff challenges as well. If you're not picking Allen to go to the Super Bowl, you're playing Josh Allen in your lineups because Allen just has that rushing upside. Even last week, it wasn't a crazy passing stat line, but he has probably the best tush push in the NFL at this point now with what he can do, and he has that rushing upside with that touchdown upside. So he's the guy at quarterback you got to get.
Yeah, we're going to lock him in. And then Brandon Cooks, I think, ultimately is wide receiver 2 on this team. I mean, they're beaten to crap, first and foremost. Yeah. Everyone's hurt on that team. He's healthy. He's had a couple more so. I don't think I'll be locking in Brandon Cooks in many fantasy spin lineups, but I will say for anyone looking at player props out there, I am intrigued by his receptions. Last I saw was only about 2.5. So Brandon Cooks is one that intrigues me, maybe outside of fantasy spin. And you mentioned it, the Buffalo tight ends. We have Dawson Knox here. So are you putting your money where your mouth is? Are we using a lock on him?
I got to. I can't back off my word right now and not put him in there. So we got to go Dawson Knox.
Yeah, we'll lock him in, and then no one else does it for us there. So we are going to spin, and the Buffalo trend continues. So you mentioned we go James Cook, right?
You got to go James Cook. You get James Cook, you lock him in.
And then in a flex spot, we do get Kenneth Walker. And I'm glad that you called him out because I want to call dating back to week 12. So from week 12 through the wild card round, courtesy of Fantasy Points data, I'm looking at the numbers here for San Fran against running backs. 30th in explosive run rate, so aka the third worst. 27th in yards before contact per attempt. 22nd in fantasy points per game. You can run a little bit here on San Fran. And yes, Fred Warner's hitting the blocking pads. He might be out there. I don't think, as good as I think he is, as much as I admire that guy, he's not coming in and fixing up a still very heavily injured San Francisco defense. So I'm with you on Ken Walker. Anything else you want to add in regards to him?
No, I mean, like, even if Fred Warner suits up, they're still really decimated among that front seven, and they're going to be able to move the ball effectively. Like, the 49ers are going to say, how do we slow down Seattle's explosives and stop JSN? That's their biggest priority. It's not going to be slowing down Kenneth Walker and Zach Charbonnet. They're going to live with the 5 to 6 yard runs. They can't live with JSN beating them for 25 yards on third down too much.
And imagine if Ken Walker could find the end zone in a game. How crazy would that be for his fantasy?
It would be a miracle. Total. It would be a miracle.
It sure would, but he is not allowed to score for whatever reason. So we are fresh out of locks. We had 3 spins left. We're now down to 2, and we're out of locks. So basically it's, hey, we're either going to take this lineup or we're going to take a lock from somebody to lock in one of these 2 guys, but neither of these 2 are going to do it for me.
Nah, those are not very enticing options this week.
Not even remotely close. And I don't even like either of those guys.
No, I think if you like, Pearsall is intriguing just because when he's been on the field this year, he's just been solid. But I mean, you can't, you got to play it for, I wouldn't do it. I just would not lock in Ricky Pearsall this week. He's been too banged up over the last few weeks, and his production has been really hard to predict. I think when we get a healthy version of Ricky Pearsall, it's pretty clear that he's a very solid wide receiver 2, maybe borderline wide receiver 1 for some teams that are weak at the receiver room position, but he can't stay on the field right now, and that's a big reason why he's been so volatile this year.
Yep, and dating back since week 14, it does include the wild card round. Not that it matters for Seattle because obviously they didn't play. 8th in passing yards per game, 5th in passer rating on, 6th in yards per attempt. It's very tough to throw on them. And if I'm not mistaken, San Fran only put up 3 points against them in week 18. It was 13-3, right? Wasn't that the score of that game?
And then that first matchup they played, Pearsall had, I want to say 90 receiving yards. He had a good
Mhm.
day in that first time, but I mean, that feels like a century ago based on, what's happened this year for the 49ers.
It does feel a lifetime ago. So this is going to be our final spin, and whatever we get, we are stuck with. And Khalil
Luke
Shakir is
Farrell.
nice as we
Yes.
continue the Buffalo trend, but Farrell just isn't going to be all that great. I guess the optimism there is with no George Kittle. Maybe I know he's more of like I believe he's
Maybe
more
they
of like a
moved down to
blocking
tight end
guy.
3.
Maybe they go down to it. So we'll have to see what shakes out there. But clearly, we are pro Buffalo here in this one with multiple Bills. But we got to do a pick 'em here. So we do have to pick a total of 3 players that covers at least 2 teams. So we can't just pick all 4 Bills. Though I
Yep.
do imagine a particular guy on here, Kenneth Walker, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, is probably going to be a pick here. So Ryan, who do you think of the players we got here is most likely to go over their projected point total as shown on the screen?
Yeah, I'm looking at it. Kenneth Walker is a great one right off the bat, right there. I think Shakir at 18 and a half, that's a little high for me when I look at that off the bat. So I don't really love that one too much. Josh Allen at 23.9, I feel like that's kind of right where he should be. 17.5 for James Cook. I mean, Dawson Knox at 7.2 is kind of staring me in the face right now. I think it's a good value. I think with
Mhm.
what the volume he's been getting, that's basically 3 catches for, 50 yards and he hits that prop line. And that's kind of like the usage he's been having down the field for them. And you know what? Screw it. We'll go Josh Allen. We'll
Yep.
trust the guy that finds a way to just have some crazy production in the playoffs. So I'll go the over on those guys.
I couldn't agree more. Those Walker and Allen were the first 2 that caught my eye that I was going to go with. So we will go ahead and lock them in there. And that'll be the lineup and breaking down the Seahawks, Niners, and Bills, Broncos. This lineup, pro Bills and pro Ken Walker. That is what we're hoping for here. So, Ryan, thank you so much for joining. Any last things that you want to shout out? Any last comments on the game? Anything you want to kind of go for? The floor is yours.
Yeah, I would just say, like, when you guys are going into this weekend, whether you're playing, fantasy spin, a playoff challenge, whatever it is, right? The playoffs are unpredictable this year. The entire NFL season has been unpredictable. The thing you need to trust is who has the better quarterback a majority of the time, and that's typically who's going to come out on top in the postseason. I'm excited to see what we get here in the divisional round. It should be a great weekend for football fans.
I am excited as well, and I'm sure many are out there as well. And make sure you give Ryan a follow at blitzlink_over over on X and check out blitzsportsmedia.com. Betting, fantasy, NFL picks. There's power rankings, which I think the Texans are too low, but that's neither here nor there. Not I didn't put it in there, but they're pretty respected in your rankings. I will give them that. But you make up for it by predicting them to beat the Patriots on Sunday. So A-OK in my book. But once again, at blitzlink_over on X and blitzsportsmedia.com. And y'all, there's no better time to get in on the action on Fantasy Spin. Tons of money up for grabs, tons of tokens that you can get. No better time to spin, to win, and experience the most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports this football season. And for any of you golf fanatics out there, PGA contests, I believe, are now up and running. So make sure you check that out. Head over to the Google Play and the Apple App Store. Download the Fantasy Spin app today, and we will see you on the leaderboard. What's up, y'all? Hope you enjoyed the content. For the avoidance of doubt, please note that I, Colby Conway, am a DFS player entering these contests under the username Colby Conway. The strategies and recommendations in this video do not necessarily reflect the views of Fantasy Spin. Please play responsibly and visit fantasyspin.com/responsible gaming to take advantage of Fantasy Spin's responsible gaming resources.